Looney Tunes back in action. Yes, we are finally talking about that one. I right now I'm reviewing all the Looney Tunes live action hybrid movies in preparation for Coyote versus Acme, which I'm very excited about. Already got my tickets for that, and I wanted to talk about Coyote versus Acme. And do some videos in relation to that. So I did the Space Jam movies. Now we're doing back in action. That's the annoying thing about this review series. I usually review movies in order, but it didn't really make sense to review them in order because Test Space Jam's the first one, but then why wouldn't I just review the sequel after and then do back in action? Just makes sense to do it this way, but it is kind of weird because this movie felt very much as a response to Space Jam because this movie is directed by Joe Dante. Joe Dante is a great filmmaker. He did Gremlins 1 and 2, The Burbs, was it The Howling? I can't remember. He did a werewolf movie. I just can't remember which one it was. And he's done a lot of other great movies. This is a guy who has a very quirky sense of humor to him, but also kind of he loves the Looney Tunes, and he really wanted to make a great Looney Tunes movie. And if you watch Space Jam, I think it's a good movie, the original. But I think that it has a lot of issues. You can tell it's a commercial, right? Also, even though the Looney Tunes themselves are fun in that movie, they don't really act like the Looney Tunes characters. The Looney Tunes characters aren't that much of sellouts. They make a lot of jokes about being sellouts, if that was the case. And this movie kind of does that. There's a whole bit that's a great line where Bugs points out, it's really great of Walmart to lend us these giant Walmart signs in exchange for us saying Walmart so many times. That's a funny gag. That's something Bugs Bunny would actually say. But some of the lines he says in Space Jam, no. But this movie also is very flawed too, because even Joe Dante has admitted he didn't really like making this movie because him and Warner Brothers butted heads a lot, and you can kind of feel that because I'm sure they were trying really hard to make this movie as commercial as possible. This movie did not do well at the box office. I can kind of see why, because this movie's kind of odd. This movie almost feels like a movie that came out in the 90s, but somehow it came out in the early 2000s. And it's got a really great human cast to it that I think works. I'm forgetting what's the name of this actress here? Heather Locklear. She's pretty good in it, and then she matches Brendan Fraser's cartoony energy. And you need people who can do the cartoony stuff. The actual Looney Tunes animation stuff is fucking incredible. I mean, those are the scenes I remember the most. In the final battle, I don't remember anything Brendan Fraser's character did, which is not me saying he's not enjoyable, but I remember the Marvin the Martian space battle. I remember Granny riding on the elephant. I remember the Tasmanian and Coyote. I remember the painting scene. I remember all of these sequences in this movie. I just don't remember the non-Looney Tunes stuff in this movie very well. And it's not because it's bad, but it's because it's doing its role so effectively, which is to be fun enough that it's enjoyable and doesn't make me hate watching them, but also make sure there's a few of it that we're giving the Looney Tunes the proper amount of screen time. And I think that's what this movie does. It's amazing at it. It's just great stuff. I think this movie is so well done with that aspect of it, and I think it is a lot of fun. I think it's very funny. I actually had a great time watching this movie. It's wow, this movie really does hold up better than you would think it would. And this movie does the kind of let's do this Space Jam kind of crossover stuff in a way that actually works. Batman's in this movie and they crash the Batmobile, but it's for a gag that makes sense in the universe and doesn't feel like you're trying to sell me fucking Batman. It just seems like a funny gag. Or when Bugs is at a business meeting, with our main female lead here, and they're talking, and then in the background you see Shaggy, the animated Shaggy, yelling at Matthew Lillard Shaggy and saying, "You made me look like a fool." You know, like that stuff's funny, and it works, and it all makes sense, and I think it's really nice. But you know, it's not in your face, it's not annoying like Space Jam 2, or Space Jam even. I think this movie is so much fun. It's a kind of unfortunate this movie is bombed and it isn't, you know, well talked about, because it's a lot better than people remember it being, and it is a lot of fun. Unfortunately, it is out of print on DVD and Blu-ray. In fact, the only way I could get a copy of this was to buy this 10-film Looney Tunes set, which is a cool set, but I mean, most of these are not just direct-to-video Looney Tunes movies or compilation movies that you could probably get better copies of. You know, and the Space Jam 1, 2 are in 4K. You know, some of these have Blu-rays, but yeah. Hopefully one day Warner Brothers will license out the movie, get a 4K Blu-ray from one of these boutique labels, or even just a reprint one or archive Blu-ray would be nice. But until that day, yeah, I had to watch it on the DVD, and it didn't look as bad as I thought it would, but it definitely could have looked better. But you know, this movie seems like something Warner Brothers doesn't want to touch, which is unfortunate because it's a good-ass movie, and I recommend it.